At home, the government have announced more relaxations in exchange controls. They'll make it easier for investors to put money into foreign companies. And Lord Snowdon's wife has given birth to a daughter. And that's it so far from us, from News at 5:45. Until tomorrow, goodbye.
Good evening and welcome to Cowdray Park in Sussex.
And good evening from me, from our studios here in Southampton. Well, as you may know, we had hoped tonight to bring you the whole of Day by Day live from Cowdray Park. Sadly, we've had a few problems, and that means we've had to change our plans just slightly.
Despite that, the ingredients of tonight's programme remain very much the same, including an interview with Prince Charles. We'll also have highlights of today's match here at Cowdray Park, featuring the Prince. In addition to that, we'll be announcing the winners to our painting competition and our Face of the South competition, and in just a few moments you'll be rejoining us here at Cowdray. But for the moment, let's cross back to the studios in Southampton for tonight's news and Peter Clark.
Fines totalling £900 were imposed by magistrates at Brighton today in connection with a hotel fire in the town which killed a woman of 80. The company, which owns the Palace Pier Hotel, were fined £500, the director, Adam Christoforo, £300, and manager George Kanakis, £100. All pleaded not guilty to failing to provide a self-closing device for the door of a second-floor bedroom. The fire on March the 17th started in the bedroom, and although the man occupying it managed to escape, the fumes and smoke swept along the corridor and overpowered ex-actress Jane Madden. She died the next day in hospital. A verdict that Lord Valentine Thynne, youngest son of the Marquess of Bath, killed himself while the balance of his mind was disturbed, was recorded at an inquest at Salisbury today. The Wiltshire coroner, Mr. George Lush, said Lord Valentine had probably been worried about his business affairs. Lord Valentine, who was 41 and ran a pub at Horningsham near Warminster, was found hanging from a beam in his cottage 11 days ago. His German-born wife, Lisa, who found him, said she'd cut him down, tried to revive him, and rung for help, but he was dead. The inquest heard that earlier in the evening, Lord Valentine had been drinking heavily at a gala party at Longleat, attended by Princess Margaret. An accidental death verdict was recorded on actor Michael Wilding at the inquest in Chichester this afternoon. Mr. Wilding, who was 66, died 10 days ago after a fall at his cottage in Batchmere near Chichester. The inquest heard that his death was the result of a brain hemorrhage. Police, who were called to a house in Cunningham Road at Waterlooville in Hampshire today, found the body of a 4-year-old boy. A woman who also lives in the house is now helping detectives with inquiries. A post-mortem examination on the boy is being carried out this evening. A 33-year-old mother was seriously injured when she fell 30 feet from a balcony at her home in Old Road at Gosport. Mrs. Ann both fell from the balcony while chatting to a friend and landed on the concrete path below. A baker's roundsman from Brighton, who was convicted of stealing customers' money, has won his appeal. Philip Knight from Haywood Close in Waddingdean received a suspended 18-month sentence at Lewes Crown Court in 1977. But the appeal court judge said today his conviction was unsatisfactory. A baby girl who was rescued from a fire at her home in Southampton yesterday has died in hospital. She was 1-year-old Cheryl Babbage. Now, cricket and Hampshire are in a weak position in their Gillette Cup match at Lord's. They were all out for 193. In reply, Middlesex were 48 for 1 after 21 overs. But Sussex looked like beating Suffolk, who could only score 158. Hotel keepers at Weymouth have gone into battle against housewives who are taking in holiday guests to earn pin money. But the part-time landladies are hitting back, as Roger Livingston now reports.
The opening salvo, and what's becoming a bitter find for the holiday trade, was fired by Weymouth's influential Hotels and Catering Association. They sent out 300 letters to women whom they suspect of taking in bed and breakfast clients, warning them that they could be breaking the law. The letter reminds the part-time landladies that they should have planning permission, and if more than 6 guests are taken, they have to be registered under fire precautions legislation. The letter adds darkly that breaches of the regulations can carry fines of up to £400, and warns that the association mean to do all they can to curtail the housewives' pin money enterprise. But the housewives are hitting back. They claim that association members have been peering through their dining room windows to look at the tables and see if they're set for meals, and they say they won't be intimidated by the snoopers.
The council at West Sussex have announced plans for a gypsy caravan site at Alversane near Billingshurst. Work on it will start in the next few weeks. Some Vietnamese from a home for refugees in Gosport were today taken on a trip around Portsmouth Harbour. The last time these children took to the sea was to escape from their country in an old ship that was in constant danger of sinking, and they had to live in cramped conditions with little food or drinking water or even shelter from the intense heat. So the submariners at HMS Dolphin in Gosport decided to give them a more pleasant taste of life at sea, which included a close-up view of the royal yacht Britannia. And finally, a 7-page letter written by Florence Nightingale more than 100 years ago was sold at an auction in Bournemouth today for £315. The letter, found amongst Victoriana in a house at Bournemouth, was bought by a Dutch visitor who promptly gave it to his wife. Now back to you, David.
The news from Peter Clark. Now, Cowdray Park is, of course, the traditional home of British polo, and for the past few weeks, the qualifying rounds of the British Open Championship have been played here and at Windsor and at Cirencester, and the whole competition reaches its climax this coming Sunday when Southern Television will be covering the finals of the event here at Cowdray Park. Now, polo is, of course, a sport which tends not to get too much publicity. The headlines concern themselves rather more with the individuals playing than the sport itself. And that's hardly surprising when you think that many rich and famous people patronise the sport. Later on, we'll be telling you a lot more about the game itself, as well as meeting Prince Charles. But for the moment, let's sample some of the atmosphere that you get as you lead up to a big match.
The atmosphere of Cowdray Park. Well, in fact, plans for this special Cowdray Park programme started for Day by Day in January, and it was in early June that we asked you for your photographs for a Face of the South competition. The idea was that we get Lord Litchfield to judge the competition and then photograph the two winners in a setting at Cowdray Park. Anyway, Sarah Kennedy now takes up the story.
Envy Lord Litchfield. It wasn't going to be easy, even for a photographer of his experience, to select two winners out of nearly 500 entries. He was looking for warmth, personality, and that's something special, a quality he hoped to capture at a photographic session at Cowdray Park. And it was there, later in the week, I suggested to him that it couldn't have been an easy choice to make.
No, it wasn't. It never is in things like this, because in this case you had really no age limit on it, which I think is a very good thing, but, and thus
Not strictly true.
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, there were some people who were considerably older than one might have expected to, and they were very interesting. And it was very tough to choose, not to choose, for instance, a face with a lot of character rather than just an ordinary pretty face.
What were you looking for?
Well, I knew I had to photograph them later, so I was looking for what I would consider photogenic qualities in people. I mean, some people definitely photograph better than others, and it's quite interesting to do it from photographs because, you know, in the model world, for instance, we get sent around a lot of sheets of girls, and one looks at them to see if they're good or not. But you can't really tell what the girl looks like. Photographs don't actually look like people. So I was looking for somebody I could photograph.
Were the girls that we have chosen, or that you have chosen, were they as you thought they would be from their photographs?
Yes and no. I mean, each photographer, if you took 10 photographers and they all photographed you, they'd all come up with a completely different result. So I saw one photographer's interpretation, and I hope I'll be able to do the girl justice, just as he did. We've got to try and stop the eyebrow going up. It perhaps does it all by itself, involuntarily. That's nice still, don't we?
So, who did he choose? One of our winners is redhead Susan Graves, a drama student from Kent. And the second Face of the South, blonde Sally Harnett, a hairdresser from Sussex. We were very lucky with the weather, and the ruins of Cowdray Park provided a beautiful backdrop as Lord Litchfield, with entourage, got clicking.
It does something rather good with the face. It's much better than cheese. That's lovely. Just keep looking exactly like that. Don't move. Can you say strawberry? Does wonders for you. That's lovely when the hair goes like that. Is that? Wait a minute. Where's that wind? That's it. There. Still. You may not like this. No, rather do. Stay like that. That's very good. Just keep it there. That's just fine. And if it's in focus, it'll be really nice there. Good. Good move. Lovely. Keep this. You've got something very pretty. There. That's lovely still. Keep it good. Who suggested you enter this competition?
It was my mother's idea.
Your mother's idea. What did you know she was sending a picture in?
Well, I sent it off.
I see. She did. I see. She didn't do it behind her back.
No, she didn't.
Straighten the camera. Good. That's fine. Terrific. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hit it. Lovely. Would have been wonderful if I'd bothered to take the slide out. Here we go. Ready, steady, go. Wonderful. Have you ever been photographed like this before?
No. Having seen Lord Litchfield at work all afternoon, I asked him what made his photography so special.
I think that one just actually looks differently. I very seldom take photographs from eye levels, for instance. Most people take photographs from up there. It's one of the most common mistakes, but we're not going to go into technique. I just think that it is a question of viewpoint.
Well, from any viewpoint, certainly in polo terms, a couple of cracking fillies. Let's take another look at the photographs of them. First of all, Susan Graves from Canterbury in Kent. A lovely redhead is Susan. She was one winner, and our second winner, in fact, was a blonde lady from Southwick near Brighton, and her name, Sally Harnett. A lovely lady as well, and in fact, both of those ladies are with us in the Day by Day studio tonight. Susan, first of all, what sort of experience was it being photographed by a photographer of this stature?
It was really very exciting. I felt really honoured to sort of meet Lord Litchfield, and I felt he was such a warm, wonderful person. He really relaxed me.
Was it nerve-wracking at all, you know, thinking that...
I was a little bit nervous, but I think I was just more excited than anything and thoroughly enjoyed the experience.
And having seen the results of Lord Litchfield's work, what are your impressions?
I think he's marvellous. No other way to describe him.
Good, all right. And a word with you, Sally. Did you enjoy the experience, or did you find it a wee bit nerve-wracking?
No, it wasn't at all nerve-wracking.
Really
I
enjoyable?
enjoyed it, yes.
We heard on the film how Sue got involved in the competition. What about you? How did you get into it?
It was my mother sent the photograph in, and it was all rather a big surprise. And I got a phone call at work saying, "You've won." And I thought, oh, crikey.
It was a complete surprise, was it?
Yes,
And now that you've seen Lord Litchfield's photograph of you, what are your impressions? Are you pleased?
yes, I am very pleased. Lovely photographs.
Something I can put to you both. We heard Lord Litchfield on the film, I think, shouting out things like porridge and strawberries in order to get different expressions from you. Did that put you off at all, or did that help?
It helped to relax, I think, yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely.
You're going to be an actress. Sally, you're a hairdresser at the moment. Would you like to be a model?
It depends what kind of modelling, really. I'd like to do some sort of modelling in facial or just fashion.
I think you'd both do very well. Well done. Thank you very much for joining us. And we'll frame their photographs for them as well, and of course a cheque for £25 to each of them. Well done to you both. A couple of worthy winners then, I think you'll agree. And after that look at our faces of the South, let's take a look now at Prince Charles meeting some other faces, this time from the Day by Day team. Well, the programme's editor, Mike Hollingsworth, introduced the Prince to the crew. Among them was Chris Peacock. You see him there. We'll be interviewing the Prince, and you'll be able to see that interview, and it's exclusive to Day by Day a little bit later in the programme. Very big moment then for the Day by Day team. Wish I was with them. And it is a very, very good interview indeed, I can promise you, between Chris Peacock and Prince Charles. You can see that a little later. Join us, if you will, in a couple of minutes from now.
We are the top kennel for breeding Norwich Terriers in this country, and my success is attributed to the correct feeding of my dogs, and that means pedigree chum. To me, chum is the best. Look at it. Firm, meaty, good, solid nourishment. Beautiful food. The dogs love it. The dishes are absolutely licked clean. I built my kennel on pedigree chum. I should have no hesitation in recommending it to anyone.
Pedigree chum. Top breeders recommend it because it's solid nourishment.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this year's awards to the TI group of companies for some of the best performances in British industry. For the leading role in cycling at home and abroad, Raleigh Bikes. For the most tasteful contribution to cooking, Creeder Cookers. And for top performance out of a motor car, Krypton engine tuning equipment. For outstanding public safety products, Chesterfield breathing cylinders. And for providing delightful refreshment every day, Russell Hobbs kettles. Other TI winners include Glowworm Central Heating, New World, Churchill and Matrix Machine Tools, and many, many more. And finally, a special thank you to TI, whose technical know-how has helped ensure the high quality of all their products.
So if you're looking for a product you can trust, look for TI.
Some people find that most quick snacks are a little too quick. Snap. And they're gone. Twix gives you more to bite into. Crunchy shortcake biscuit topped with caramel, covered in creamy milk chocolate. Next time, get the longer-lasting snack. Twix, the longer-lasting snack.
Excuse me, they will not serve me here.
That's not fair, is it, lad? No. What do you want, old son?
Oh, a pint of Hofmeister, please.
I'll get it for you, sunshine. Ah, that great German taste. Just the thing on a nice hot day like this, eh?
Yeah. Auf Wiedersehen.
Yes, mate. He wouldn't serve you on account of you being a bear, eh?
Nein, he wouldn't serve me on account of me having no money.
Hofmeister Lager, the great German taste for the great British thirst.
welcome back. Now, as we mentioned earlier, polo is something of a mysterious game to many people. All they know is that it involves a group of men on horseback wielding what looks like extra long-handled hockey sticks. Well, with me to explain all about the game and what exactly we can expect to see in just a moment when Prince Charles' team, Les Diables Bleus, take on the home side Cowdray Park, is Terry Hanlon, who's known as Britain's senior polo commentator. Terry, just briefly, can you explain the rules and the basics of what we ought to look for?
Yes, it's a four-a-side game, and the main rule of the game is the line of the ball. Once the ball, having been struck, creates its own line, and that's a main road that it is travelling on, and anyone coming across that main road commits an infringement, and that's 40-mile-an-hour polo, as I've said before, and for men only. There are two ladies that play, but they're super ladies, and it's a really tough game, very, very fast, and the main rule, if you like, as Prince Philip once said, it's football on horseback. But the rules are just a little bit different because of that main rule. A guy travelling at 40 miles an hour doesn't want to be crossed, and if he is, the whistle will blow, and that's the main rule. And it's a super game. It's very intellectual because you've got to hit the ball, back it, and pick up the line of the ball. The line is the main thing. Once the ball has been struck, that is the main line of the game.
You make it sound very simple. I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that.
Well, it isn't easy, but it's very simple if you really want to learn, and anybody can play.
All right, can you give us an illustration
I'll
of the
give you
sort
an
of thing you were
illustration
talking
exactly now with Memo Cressida from Mexico, who's with me this afternoon, who'll be playing with Prince Charles.
Fine, thank you.
You have to... You come across the line, remember? Once I strike the ball, I have the line. If he comes across me, that is a foul. If I am travelling along this road here now...
Towards me?
Yes, towards you, I strike the ball. That's the line of the ball. This is the foul. He can't do that. He can't come across the front of me.
All right.
Then the whistle will blow. He can ride me over the ball. If you come here, Memo, just a second, we'll show him what we mean by a ride-off. That's very important. He can push me off of that line. There's the line. And here's Memo and I coming onto the ball. On my left side, Memo, left side. And I've got the ball and he's trying to push me off.
All right, fine, Terry. Thank you very much indeed. That's very useful.
Thank you.
So there we are. That's a quick rundown on the rules. Now let's see how they actually do work in practice, because we're now going to see that game involving Prince Charles' team, Les Diables Bleus, as they take on Cowdray Park, the home team, who are wearing the yellowy orange shirts.
And all the players on the ground and waiting for the umpire to throw in from where the last chukker ended, and there it is. Withers comes onto the ball for Cowdray and hits a big one straight under his neck, and it runs wide. And out of play on the far side with Antonio Herrera of Mexico, umpire in this high goal match here this afternoon. Bart Evans from the United States, the other umpire. In goes the ball. Julian Hipwood for Les Diables Bleus taps it forward. Withers goes back for him. Hipwood, a nice under the neck shot, picked up there by Alex Carahan in defence, who puts it straight round his tail. Pearson picks up the ball. The front line of Cowdray leaves it to Churchwood. Churchwood overrides it, didn't get the shot he wanted. Memo Cressida comes onto it, taps it round. Hits the ball up to Julian Hipwood. Alex Carahan's there, backs it round his tail. Withers taps it forward. Churchwood coming onto it, reaches out, goes for the volley shot. Withers hooked neatly there by Julian Hipwood, and that's high goal polo. Alex Carahan, Hoover shot from Carahan, backed by Withers, up to Guy Wildenstein. Now the Blues with a chance, and Withers. Memo Cressida just casually takes his time and hits that one forward, but didn't get the shot he wanted. Ball straight on the ball. Prince Charles goes for the backhand shot. Julian Hipwood straight round the tail up to Memo Cressida. Cressida snatches the ball from under Cowdray's nose. The Diables Bleus tapping down. Julian Hipwood calling to his team. Memo still fighting with the ball. Alex Carahan for Cowdray, and the whistle goes. And there's Alex Carahan coming on for Cowdray now, defending. He's going straight down the ground. Julian Hipwood coming back for him. Reaches out to hook him. Alex Carahan gets for the big one. Prince Charles intercepts with a big ride-off. Julian Hipwood comes onto it now. for Le Diable Bleu, backs it round his tail. Withers goes for it. And that's a big call there from Withers. Memo Cressida taps it forward. Julian Hipwood comes through, taps it forward. Julian Hipwood looking at that ball, puts it through the legs. What a pass for Memo Cressida. Cressida taps it forward, takes his time, and the ball runs out of play. And the Diable Bleu with a great chance to put one on there to shorten the lead of Cowdray Park in orange.
Well, sir, a 9-7 defeat is perhaps a little disappointing for you.
Yes. Well, it would have been nicer to have won, obviously. But anyway, we tried. They hit very hard. I think that's the...
They played very well today, in actual fact, yeah.
They did seem to get off, sir, to a very good start, and that put you at a disadvantage right from the first and second chukker.
I think we were a bit sleepy, weren't we?
Well, I think we have had a little bit of a mental problem, in that it was that we know we're already in the final. Today was, of course, it would be nice to have 5 wins in a row, but basically we knew that we could cut down on our play about 10%, just working the horses and giving them, playing with them.
Silly psychological thing, you know, in the back of your mind, you know, it doesn't really matter. If you lose, it's the way the thing operates.
So perhaps that worked against you in this particular
match? Well, I
match?
think it did a bit. I mean, normally we've done quite well in all the other matches. We've started losing, and we've had to come up from behind. And so it's always easier to win from behind than it is to hold on to a lead. But this time we just didn't manage it.
We've heard rumours before today's match of something of an injury to your leg, sir. Is that true? Did you have a thigh strain, was it?
Yeah, I just pulled the riding muscle in here. I was doing a backhanded like that rather fast, and it suddenly went twang. And,
did that hamper you at all today?
No. I just wrapped myself up in that sort of girth thing to stop it doing it again. It's rather embarrassing otherwise.
Can we now look ahead to Sunday? How do you think things might go now that you're into the final? All right, you've lost today, but are you still confident about Sunday?
Better ask the captain.
Better ask the captain.
Well, no, I think we're confident. I think in some ways we had a mental disadvantage against us today because we knew we were going in on Sunday. Being defeated today, I think, has probably done us good for Sunday now. We don't want to be beaten again, and we'll be out there from the first chukker, and we'll be having our horses right tip-top condition for the Sunday game. And
I might borrow Milford for the occasion.
So you're hopeful of a victory on Sunday?
Oh, obviously, yes.
Yes, indeed.
We had some team plays today that I think worked very well. And as soon as they started going well, we started relaxing again. As soon as we started relaxing again, the other team climbed on top of us again. But we all know we can do it if we stick together and work as a team.
I overheard you before the match discussing certain tactics, and did they work out on the occasion or did they not?
I think they did, yes. The thing is to keep to them. we remember them, and then we get a little bit excited and we start taking a few chances, and then that's when one of those chances goes wrong, the whole play turns.
Yes,
and we have all the team coming against us.
The motto is to be flexible.
The motto is to be flexible,
isn't it?
Yes.
So can I thank you for talking to us, and can I present you finally with a T-shirt which is in the Diable Bleu colours?
Another
day
one?
by day. Another one. We know you're very keen on T-shirts, so
kind,
would you please wear it with our best wishes? And thank you.
Really kind, marvellous.
And it's got all the days of the week on the back.
Oh, maybe. I should better be careful. That's advertising. I'll have the BBC on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Pat.
Surprised you haven't run out of film by now.
Just about here.
Prince Charles there talking to the future Sir David Bobin. We'll talk at greater length with Prince Charles, or at least Chris Peacock will, a little bit later on. Incidentally, the ruins from which David has been sending quite a few of his reports tonight are the remains of a great house which was destroyed by fire nearly 200 years ago. Very beautiful, but they hide a really sinister past.
Cowdray ruins stand impressive in this, the hinterland of Sussex, a relic of an age long gone. No more does the ivy choke the stonework. No more do the foundations suffocate under years of neglect. But the once great house has paid the price for the treachery of those dark ages when the Cowdray curse was first pronounced. Good King Hal ruled then in an England divided by hatred. A man's religion and his discretion were the key to survival at a time when life was cheap. One such man was Sir Anthony Browne of Cowdray. A favourite of the obsessive monarch, Browne was rewarded for his loyalty with the gift of the abbey at Battle near Hastings. The house, pledged to God, became a house of revelry where Browne entertained on a lavish scale. And when the last monk was driven from the door, the cleric declared that Cowdray and its owner would perish by fire and water. The years passed, and the prophecy became forgotten. Forgotten, that is, until 200 years later, when the 8th Viscount drowned in a boating accident. That night, a mysterious fire swept through the house. The key to the engine house couldn't be found, and without warning, a sudden wind sprang up, fanning the flames until they engulfed Cowdray Manor. Cowdray and its owner had perished, and the prophecy was fulfilled. No attempt to rebuild the house was ever made. As the years passed, the weeds and the pigeons took over, until at last it became so dangerous that most of the shell was demolished. It wasn't until the beginning of this century that the ruins were preserved, to stand as an epitaph to the Cowdray curse.
The grim tale of the Cowdray curse. Now, it was in fact the first Lord Cowdray who was responsible for restoring and preserving these ruins some 70 years ago, but it's the present Lord Cowdray who must take the credit for bringing polo to this beautiful part of Sussex. We're going to take a break now. Join us again after the break in a couple of moments. We'll be talking to Prince Charles, and as well as that, we'll be announcing the winners of our painting competition. So see you in just a couple of moments.
Some games you can't play all by yourself. Sometimes you're gonna need to. Gotta make your way.
Gotta live your life your way.
We can't help you by joining in. Some people like you.
Play the team with the
Midland team works away to win.
You and Midland Bank, together we make a great team.
Thanks awfully for babysitting, Julie.
How was the garden party?
Frightfully good. She certainly isn't. Another?
If you don't mind my saying so, I find it rather bitter. Birds isn't.
Oh, well, it does.
100% pure golden coffee and a mellow flavour unique to birds. No bitterness.
Quite an eye-opener.
Mellow birds will make you smile.
How was the dentist then? I've got to have a filling. No fillings for me, Mum.
We use Colgate. I'm convinced it helps protect her teeth.
Keeping her inside Colgate's ring means fewer fillings.
Regular brushing with Colgate plus MFP fluoride means up to 30% fewer fillings. Sounds good. Tastes good. No fillings this time, Mum.
Fewer fillings for your children and a good taste. Keep your family inside Colgate's ring of confidence. Imagine bringing up a growing family without milk. Milk's the first food in your life. Milk helps give the goodness and energy children need. And in the years that follow, it's there, time and time again. For children from 1 to 80, milk is still worth every penny. Put milk first.
Introducing new handy-size Lucasade. Now, when you're away from home, Lucasade can go with you. So when you're out and about and you start to slow down, you can sit down and reach for new handy-size Lucasade. Lucasade's not just refreshing. It gives glucose energy in the most natural form the body can take.
Lucasade refreshes you through the ups and downs of the day.
In that handy new size.
Welcome back to you. Of course, many people tend to regard the sport of polo as the preserve of princes and playboys, though the game did in fact originate in the Middle East. And we're very grateful to one of our day-by-day viewers, Mr. Duncan Holloway from Hythe near Southampton, for sending us some photographs of a polo tournament at Gilgit in North Pakistan, which provide quite a contrast to the lush green fields of mid-Sussex. One thing Mr. Holloway noticed was an inscription beside the gates of the Aga Khan Stadium there, which said, "Let other people play at other things. The king of games is still the game of kings." What a lot of people don't realise is that nowadays we have polo professionals, one of whom, Paul Withers from Alton in Hampshire, was in fact playing in this afternoon's match. Veronica Charlwood reports.
Paul Withers has been playing polo now for 22 years, and today with a 7-goal handicap, he's one of our best players. He turns out regularly for Lord Cowdray's team. He's in great demand abroad and was recently selected to play for England. All of which means he doesn't always spend the time he'd like running his small farm at Alton. As a young man, he dreamed of being a first-class cricketer, but his father dabbled in polo, trading and training a few horses. Paul became involved, played a few times, and very soon deserted the over for the chukker. But although the enthusiasm was there, the means were not. His father was a tenant farmer, and the family could not be described as particularly wealthy. So to go further, he was definitely needing a lucky break.
An American friend of mine who was running a polo team at the time had a very bad injury to his back and was told he could never play again. And so he wanted to carry on in polo and run a team, and he had a lovely string of horses, and like a present from heaven one day he said to me, would I like to play for his team and be mounted by him and coached by him? And I played with him for the next 5 years. He spent hours with me on the wooden horse teaching me a swing, and that's really how I started. And I've therefore used it ever since, basically, only to get my eye in and to practice all the shots around the pony, but always trying to do it in the right way, and remembering that the swing you were taught originally is the one you must keep to here, even though balls do rebound off these concrete walls quite fast. So first of all, you'd practice the forehand shot, up and down in the... trying to keep it aiming at a spot on that wall all the time. It is pointless just to hit the ball without having aimed it somewhere. So you'd always try and get the right swing, keep your head down. You could see that one rebounded awkwardly. So we'll bring it back over. And then you can switch to the other side of your pony, which is called the near side shot, and carry on like that.
Polo's got very much the reputation of being a rich man's sport. Is that the truth?
I don't think so now. It perhaps used to be. What I think has happened is that people have heard that A, royalty have played for a long time, and B, a lot of titled people, and obviously a lot of rich people. Now I think those days have gone. There are a lot of young chaps that have come up through the ranks of the Pony Club who have had chances being mounted by people who have been wealthy enough to have the extra ponies to give them. It is open to people without any money if they want to work at it and practice hard. It is a rugby club type atmosphere with a good social side, but you can forget that it's only played by rich people.
What about the ponies themselves? What are the qualities that make a good polo pony?
Well, first of all, a good mouth, which means that the pony will stop very quickly from a very fast speed to zero and be able to turn round and go back in the same direction. So handiness, that is called. Then you would want speed. Then you would want what we call bone, which means quite thick, thicker bones than the normal English thoroughbred would have to withstand some of the knocks. But all their legs are bandaged to protect them. And I suppose you'd want a mare with the right sort of a mare or gelding with the right sort of temperament. You can see she's got a very nice temperament. She's not getting upset or excited. You can practically swing a stick anywhere on her without her being worried. Back right. Yes, good.
Having found a promising horse, then the hard work begins. Regular, patient schooling is the only way to make a polo pony. Down at Cowdray Park, Paul Withers spends hours on each animal, going through a series of exercises to improve its suppleness, balance and responses. And each pony has its own special problems.
Good. Except she's just a little bit fidgety there. Backing up again, swinging right, and off at the canter again. The trick is with this mare, she's inclined to overarch her neck, so when you stop her, her head is lower than it should be and makes it more difficult for her to get her hind legs underneath her. She overbends her neck. So all the time we're keeping our hands high and trying to keep her head up.
Why are the Argentinian ponies so good and so popular?
Basically, I think because in their country they start off their life as soon as they're broken and able to be ridden, working with cattle, which teaches them a lot of the basics required of any polo pony, stopping and turning and cutting animals in and out, and then you'll find that the riders, the gauchos, will swing lassos around their head, and that simulates basically what we have to teach a pony here, of swinging a stick. Sometimes it frightens them, so they're basically accustomed to all sorts of the necessities of a polo pony before they actually see a polo ground, whereas the English thoroughbred that we have bought and had to school and train, you have to start from scratch from those, and depending on their temperament and ability, some take a lot longer than others. So you'll save perhaps a year and a half's work with an Argentine pony. So Jack, if you start going round on the near four that way, I'll come round on the off four the other way.
It may take longer to train a British-bred horse, but with the increasing price of Argentinian stock, the VAT and the high freight costs, it often pays off in the end. But once they've learnt to accept the stick and are moving well, they still have to get used to close contact with these 7 other ponies in the match. The training starts by working 2 animals together.
Jackie, you go on my outside. Do you see her put her ears back there? This is one thing we've got to concentrate on with this mare. The other horse is all right.
The standard of British polo is high, but at the moment at least, the Argentinians and the Americans still outstrip our teams. But with the dedication of players like Paul Withers, there are high hopes that one day soon we may rank first in the world.
However, with a bit of practice, hopefully we'll get this right.
Veronica Charlwood reporting. Paul Withers may be an example of how the ordinary man can make it to the top of this pretty exclusive sport, but on the other hand, polo is supposed to be the sport of royalty. And I guess you could say that Prince Charles is just about the greatest sporting ambassador that polo could have. He's waiting now to talk to us on the polo field just behind these ruins, and he's with Christopher Peacock.
Your Royal Highness, if you look for a polo result in the national press, the chances are you won't find it, or if you do, it's boxed between cycling and rowing. I wonder why it is that sufficient publicity is not given to the game.
Well, I know exactly what you mean, because I tried to look in the Daily Telegraph the other day, which I'm told is where you can find some polo results. And I looked through 3 pages of the sports news and couldn't find it anywhere. So you're absolutely right, I can't find it either. I think the reason is that it hasn't got a particularly large following. And polo is not like tennis or cricket or football or whatever it is that a lot of people can do quite easily, almost in the back garden, so to speak, or on the village green. It does take much more organisation than that. And this is one of the reasons, I think, because it doesn't have, obviously, the following that deserves the coverage.
More notice seems to be taken of what goes on off the field very often than what actually happens on it. Does that irritate you as a player yourself?
Well, yes, sometimes. Yes, I mean, obviously, I know perfectly well that there's more interest in if I fall off or something. It's different, you know. It was like saying that 25 jumbo jets landed safely at London Airport. It's not news, you know, but if one of them doesn't, then obviously it is.
Yes.
But yes, I mean, it is annoying, obviously.
Of course, I think that a lot of people do imagine that polo is out of their reach simply by the machinery of the game, and that you have to have a string of ponies, they must be maintained and looked after, and it really isn't something that they can really aspire to. I mean, what can be done perhaps to encourage more younger people to take an interest in the sport?
Well, again, it's very difficult because, like all these things, if you live in the country, I think probably it's an easier sport to take part in, because you've got the fields to practice in and to play in. And places like this, Cowdray here, whatever it is, an hour and 3/4 from London, which is, you know, just too far, really. But I think the basic way in which young people are encouraged is through the pony clubs. And this is very often where talent is found and spotted. I mean, the two best players in Britain, one of whom I'm playing with now, Julian Hipwood, both the brothers, Julian and Howard, started in pony club polo. Yes. And they got really good there, and they were spotted and given the opportunity.
So there is really a chance for almost anyone to have a go if they have the talent.
Oh, yes.
Can I ask you, sir, how you became involved in the sport yourself?
Well, I'm rather a bad example because I don't think I got the talent. But really, I got involved because I found myself by the age of 14 being almost the only boy in the pony club at that age. There were 2 or 3 others, and all the rest were girls. And I got petrified of jumping and things at that stage. And so I rather drifted out of the pony club, and as my father was playing polo, he said, you know, why not try that? And he gave me some lessons. And I went on from there, and he gave me an old pony. And like all these things, it's a good way to start, with an old one that knows the ropes.
I suspect out of the many sporting pursuits in which you're involved, polo is probably your favourite game. If that is so, what is it you get out of it?
Mainly because it's easier, I think, for me to do, particularly during the summer. I'm one of those people that likes violent activity, and I love things to do with horses. And the great thing about polo is that it combines the exciting aspect of riding and going fast and a game at the same time, and it's difficult. So it's a great challenge to get good at. And because, in my particular case, I'm lucky enough to have the horses around. You know.
I wonder if you can paint a verbal picture of just what it is like out on the field in the cut and thrust of the game. What is the atmosphere like? What goes through your mind?
Well, mostly sheer terror. No, it's not actually, because I do love it. And it is very, very exciting. I mean, like so often happens, if you get keen on a sport, you almost become addicted to it, you know. It makes me feel incredibly well afterwards, which is another great thing about it, you know, because I always believe in physical exercise. It helps me to survive the rest of the week, or whatever it is. But the trouble with polo is that it is a difficult game to learn properly. I mean, there are lots of complicated rules and regulations, and you've got to get the thing right. Otherwise, you can have some very nasty accidents, and cause some nasty accidents, because you're going fast.
Well, obviously there is, as in all sport, an element of danger. I mean, how dangerous can the game get, and how often do you get injured?
Well, I mean, it can get very dangerous if you don't pay attention. And like all these things, you've got to anticipate and make sure you get your pony in the right position. And the most important thing of all is to be able to ride well. And a lot of people forget this, that if you can't ride, then, you know, it doesn't help. And you get in the way because you can't get the thing to do what you wanted to do. And it does take a lot of physical effort required in stopping and starting and turning. And obviously, there are a lot of times when you can get injured. I mean, I pulled a riding muscle the other day down here, and that can be very painful.
Are you well enough to play too?
Oh, yes. I mean, I've been having treatment, and I wrap it up in a sort of thing like a girth, and it's a great help. It holds me together on the ground, and when I get off the ground and take it off, everything falls out.
Do you think that it would be nice to see polo elevated to the status of the Olympics? Would you like to see that?
It used to be, before the war. And then obviously it sort of died a natural death during the war. But I think it'd be very difficult to start up again nowadays. The costs are enormous of transporting ponies and things around. And unlike something like three-day eventing, for instance, or show jumping, you would only need one horse, basically, for that. But of course, with polo, as an individual in the team, you need about really 8 ponies, I suppose, or 6 ponies to make sure of the thing. So you've got to transport a lot of horses.
Yes.
And that is difficult, I think, now.
Is polo a young man's game? I wonder what the lifespan for a very good polo player is. I mean, how much longer, sir, can you continue playing the game?
God knows. I mean, I hope until I'm at least 50. My father gave up at 50 because he thought that it was a good time to stop when he was doing reasonably well. And I think this is the important thing. Never go on until you get to the stage where you're a bore, you know, and you get in everybody's way and everybody shouts at you and so on. And you fall off and break things because all your bones get more brittle, I think, as you get older. Yes. I mean, as long as I go on bouncing when I fall off, which I think I still do, touch wood, I should go on.
How difficult is it to maintain the standard of physical fitness that must be required for a sport like this, especially as you're called away to do state duties and engagements as well?
Well, that is quite difficult. I mean, I try to practice whenever I can. I mean, I do a few exercises every day just to keep myself at the minimum of fitness. But there's no actual, alternative other than riding, because you've got to get the riding muscles going. And that is the problem. I just have to make time and rush, whenever I can get a moment.
Well, sir, after the picture you've painted of polo, I'm surprised that you're still standing and in one piece.
I shall fall down the moment you've gone, though.
Thank you very much, sir.
No, thanks.
Prince of Wales there talking with Christopher Peacock, and what a revealing conversation that was. You may recall that about a month ago on Day by Day we asked you to send in your paintings of Prince Charles for a day-by-day painting competition. We can now look at just a few of those entries. Here they are. So there we are, just some of the entries in our painting competition. I can now give you the names of the winners, starting with this colourful prediction of what Prince Charles will look like when he becomes King Charles III. And that was sent in by 13-year-old Karen Atkins from Folkestone in Kent. And an equally lively interpretation from Tamsin Ross of Gosport in Hampshire, and she's only 4. So well done to Tamsin, equally impressive with some rather more traditional portraits of Prince Charles done by older viewers. This by Dorothy Cunningham from Brighton, that's very nice indeed. And finally this sketch from Mrs. G. Young of Bishopsdown near Salisbury. And all of those 4 winners are going to receive one of these, a rather handsome little handmade model of a polo pony complete with rider. So well done to all of our winners, and thank you indeed all of you who sent paintings into our competition. And don't forget the best paintings will be on display on the Southern Television stand at next week's New Forest show, from where we shall mount 2 more special programmes. Right, well now, all being well. Well now the weather, and despite the lack of sunshine today, we're going to start, Trevor Baker, with the Sunshine League.
That's right, Fred. In the past 15 days since I last showed you the Sunshine League tables, there's been a lot of sunshine. It's probably been the brightest fortnight of the summer so far. Most places has an average of about 10 hours of sunshine during that period. And Shanklin, in fact, had more than anybody else, and it's still top of the Sunshine League. Here are the top 9, led again by Shanklin, which was the winner last year. Swanage and Eastbourne have changed places at 2nd and 3rd. Weymouth has moved up 3 places to 4th. Sandown has also moved up 4 places to 5th. Deal is down 2 places at 6th. Bognor Regis up 1 at 7th. Margate down 2 is now 8th. And Folkestone has moved down 4 places and is now 9th. And I'll show you all 18 resorts that are in the Sunshine League in a fortnight's time. We'll see how they get on. I hope there's a lot more sunshine. Today there hasn't been much sunshine about in the area, and there's been some rain, much, I must admit, to my surprise, because I didn't expect any rain today. The amounts have been very small generally, in some places none at all. In other places, enough to wet the pavements, hardly enough to moisten the gardens to any extent. The rain hasn't done much good, in fact, for gardens. And this has gone, on its way out now. Tomorrow will be a dry day everywhere, with a fairly cloudy day, though not as cloudy as today has been. The cold front, which gave today's rain, this one, came through much more quickly than I expected. I thought it would be here tonight, giving a little rain. In fact, it came through this afternoon, giving a little rain. It will have cleared the east coast of Kent within about half an hour, if it hasn't already done so, moving away southwards, and there's cloudy weather coming in behind it to all parts of the country. If you're interested in continental holidays, the weather is very hot and sunny all the way down south. In the southern half of France, in Spain, the Mediterranean islands and Italy, it's hot and sunny everywhere, temperatures about 30 degrees centigrade or higher. Not the same in the British Isles, though. Some cooler air is coming in behind that cold front, also fresher air. Certainly not going to be so humid tomorrow as the last couple of days have been down here. Most of the country tomorrow will have dry weather, 1 or 2 showers in Scotland and Northern Ireland, and a fair amount of cloud generally over the whole country. Sea crossings will be slightly choppy tonight and tomorrow, not too rough. The grass pollen count in London this morning was 26, that's down on yesterday. Tonight in the south, temperatures will fall to 10 degrees centigrade, that's lower than they were last night, and temperatures tomorrow afternoon will be about 20 centigrade at best, that's cooler than the last few days. Winds will be west, becoming generally northwesterly, light to moderate over land, force 4 to 5 over the sea. Tonight will be dry everywhere, the rain will have gone. Tomorrow will be dry too, almost everywhere, with a fair amount of cloud, a little sunshine at times. And Friday and Saturday, much the same as that. That's the end of my forecast. Back now to Fred.
And that's all from tonight's special edition of Day by Day.
We hope that we've given you an insight into what must surely rank as amongst the fastest of all sports, and also that on Sunday you'll be able to join us when we transmit the highlights of the British Open Championship here from Cowdray Park. So until then, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Barry Westwood back with you again tomorrow night. Hope you've enjoyed tonight's programme. See you soon. Bye-bye for now.